Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Well, welcome. We're here for week 2 of our Winter Solstice Strengthening series. So awesome to see you guys here. And today's pose is going to be Uttanasana, forward fold. So that's the second pose that you hit in that sun salutation sequence. And again, it's going to be pretty straightforward. But what a lot of people don't realize is our forward folds are working a lot on a passive stretch on the hamstrings. And if you aren't careful about, being mindful about how your hamstrings are feeling in that forward fold, you can really put a lot of tension on your lower back. And so that's where today I kind of want to break down, what that forward fold looks like with a little support. We're going to hold it for a little bit, again, like we did with that Tadasana. Just focusing in, and then we'll end with the flow, working in forward fold, and then also working in a second option and then a modification for those that have wrist issues, because I know you two in studio, and it's awesome that I've got you guys here today. But we'll hit that, and I'll give you a modification for wrist, or just again, kind of 2 optional modifications that you can use kind of interchangeable, depending on how your wrists feel, depending on how you're feeling, because both can be challenging in their own selves and both can be modified. So I'm going to hit that, and then we'll also review our sun salutation option 1. So we're just going to kind of roll right into it. And again, if you have any questions about, all the information about behind the sun salutations, let me know, and I can get you that information, or it's on the description from last week's class. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start in an easy seat down on your mat. So go ahead and come on down. And I want to mention for those that join online that the props that we'll need for today are 2 yoga blocks, a massage ball if you have yoga massage balls, or even a tennis ball will work, or just even, a dog. We've got like a lot of dogs have just hard balls that they play with. Grab one of those. And then extra padding for the knees if you like that. And then, we'll also hit 2 other core exercises that help warm up our body, but again, work on strengthening our torso, our area that's going to help with this sun salutation sequence and building that foundation. And then lastly, I want to mention that, again, this is your practice. Even though we'll be slowing it down and kind of breaking things down, this is your practice. So do you, whatever that means today. If you need to take a break and just kind of listen, then that's fine. I'm not going to take offense if you're not following along. If you have questions, please speak up. For those that are long, comment under the video if you're watching later. But this is a place where I want to be able to learn and have you have an open discussion. So please speak up if you have any questions about anything we're going to cover today. And it doesn't have to be forward fold related. It could be any poses that we hit. Again, if it's something that coming back to Tadasana, if you have something, a question about that, please feel free. I want us to build a discussion over time. And I want you to have the opportunity to walk away with as much knowledge as you want to absorb. So with that comes with asking questions. So anything comes up, no question is a stupid question. And before we get started too, I want to ask about last week's homework. No pressure if it just kind of slipped your mind. Life can get crazy and it totally happens. But did you guys take any note of, realizing where you're kind of using those muscles? Yeah, nice. Yeah. Nice.
I didn't know that I was
slouching into the torso. Nice. Yeah. Right, like lengthening from the torsos, because that's like stretching your abdominals and stretching all those muscles there. Yeah, for sure. Because that's we have gravity compressing on us, so it's easy when we're standing just to kind of allow things to slump down. And it's not only slumping the shoulders, but you're like slumping the spine down. You're scrunching into the, it's that whole concept. So yes. It opens up space. It obviously, right? Because when you're crunching those lungs. You're compacting everything down. So it's like when you're able to recognize that, all right, I can stand up. Oh, I have all this space. I can breathe. Oh, that's really awesome. I love that. Cool. Yeah, awesome. And that's really what I want. If anything, and it doesn't have to. I'm so glad that it was such a big awareness that came into play there. But as long as even if it's just a moment of like, noticing this, like, oh, I'm kind of slouching, and that's all it takes is just that one moment, that one gentle reminder, and then pretty soon you'll notice that, like, oh, it kicks in twice a day, 3 times, and then all of a sudden you're living more of a constant, just habitual reminder of, all right, stand up a little straighter, engage my core, even though, and it doesn't become hard, it becomes just natural for you to engage those muscles and support your body against the natural, forces we have, right? So the pelvic tilt, kind of, right. You're kind of like, it's that, yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of that realization of it being more of a relaxed, grounded, sturdy, stable versus the, like, yeah, like, all right, where am I going next? Like, you're able to kind of settle into that. Good. Awesome. That's awesome. Awesome, guys. I love to hear that. So, and then if anyone online, if you have any points that you notice, please leave them in the comments or just let me know. Text me. I'd love to hear them. And then, yeah, I just wanted to check in with that, and I'll have homework for today at the end of class again. Again, it's optional, but I love to just bring that slight awareness and help you guys start to work this into really building that foundation outside of this class if you can. So what we'll do today to start is we'll start in an easy seat. So I think we're mostly all there. If you want to come down onto your bum, maybe rock a little right and left. You have this extra padding, or if you have a blanket at home, we can place that underneath the hips for a little extra cushion if you like to do so. But otherwise, just find a nice even seat here, get comfortable. Hands can relax on your knees, maybe into your lap. As you reach the crown of the head nice and tall, start to relax the shoulders down and back. So that's not necessarily scrunching those shoulder blades together. It's more just relaxing those shoulders away from the ears. And with each inhale, find a little bit more length into the spine as you pull up from the torso, and then exhale, ground into your seat. Go ahead and start to close your eyes here. As I like to do with all my classes, regardless if we're breaking it down or not, just tune into your breath here to start. So with your eyes closed, notice where you're at today. Notice how you're feeling in the mind and within the body. Maybe this is the first time you've gotten a chance to really slow down and breathe this morning. Maybe this week it's been the first time you've been able to slow down amidst all the going and doing. So whatever's coming up here, whatever thoughts, tensions you feel in the body, on your next exhale, just go ahead and let them go with that breath. As you inhale here, breathe in through the nose, fill the lungs. And then exhale again, try to let them go. We'll inhale once more here, big cleansing breath, inviting in some fresh energy for the day. And then exhale, try to let go anything that does not serve you. Let's seal up your lips here and start to bring one hand to your heart and one hand to the belly button. Bringing your breath in through the nose, slow, controlled, and bring it back out through the nose. Same slow, controlled. We'll breathe in together for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Continuing this breath here on your own for a few more, establishing a rhythm for your practice. As you establish this rhythm of your breath to guide you, Maybe you choose an intention to go along with this. Something to serve you for your day or for your time here on your mat. Maybe it's a mantra, a word or phrase serving as a bridge between mind and body. Maybe it is embodying a feeling like gratitude or patience. Maybe simply being open to receive through whatever comes to you on your mat today. On your next inhale, whatever tension is calling out here, breathe it in, honor it before it's even shown up. And then exhale, release any expectation surrounding how it'll show up on your mat today. One more breath, sealing this in. Big inhale. And then exhale, let it go. May this yoga practice open and strengthen your mind and heart. May this yoga practice open and strengthen your mind and heart. Go and release those hands down into the lap, keeping your eyes closed here for a moment. Start to drop your chin forward towards the chest, big stretch down the back side of the neck. Just slowly starting to bring some movement back into the body here. Let your head hang heavy. Let's bring our right ear to right shoulder. Let your head hang heavy to the right. Pause here. Let's take our head back. Let your head hang heavy so it stretches down the front side of your neck. Maybe even drape the jaw slightly open. We'll take our left ear to left shoulder. Let it hang heavy to the left. Big stretch on the right side. We'll bring our chin back forward to center as we pause here just for a moment. And then when you're ready, continue around to the right, maybe picking up the pace a little bit more, but still going slow and controlled. 2 more times. As feels good in your body. And then no rush here, taking your time to meet back to center with our chin hanging towards the chest, head hangs heavy. We'll take our left ear to left shoulder, let your head hang heavy to the left, big stretch down the right side. Let's even out directions. So let your head drop back, big stretch down the front side. And take your right ear to right shoulder, let it hang heavy, big stretch down the left side. We'll take our chin back forward to center, and then when you're ready, continue around to the left 2 more times, picking up the pace just slightly, moving as feels good in your neck here. If you haven't done so already, start to flutter open your eyes. On that second circle, bringing your awareness back into the room. As we find ourselves, head stacked on top of the shoulders, gaze is forward, shoulders down and back. Let's go ahead. If you have that padding underneath the hips, release that, and then release your legs out. We'll bring our feet out long in front of you. Again, shimmy a little right and left, making sure that you have scooched any extra muscle underneath those thighs so you have your hips flat on the mat. And then maybe you take your feet about maybe hip width distance there to start, where this is a pretty early on seated forward fold. So notice how you're feeling in the low back as we start to fold forward. So before we even do that here, flex those feet up towards the ceiling and then lift the crown of the head tall. Next inhale, reach the hands up high to help lengthen from the torso. Then as you exhale, start to fold from the hips. If you notice it's already pulling on the low back, then bend slightly into the knees so that you can find a little release there to fold your chest over your thighs. Maybe you grab for the feet, maybe your hands rest onto the ankles or shins. But bend the knees as much as you need here to release that low back. If you have feeling the tight hamstrings to start. Again, like I said about our forward folds, is about a passive hamstring stretch most of the time, and that can pull on our low back if we aren't careful, if we're tight and we don't take those necessary precautions. So take one more breath here, try to lift slightly from the chest, really lift, lengthen the torso, and then exhale, fold. Maybe that bend comes slightly out of the knees, feeling a little bit more depth. And then gently start to bend the knees so that we can place the hands on the mat and lift ourselves up. So just giving yourself some support. Again, just watching that low back as we're starting out here. All right, bend in the knees, plant your feet down, grab from underneath the thighs, and then start to lower on the mat. All the way down, all the way down to the mat. If you'd like to hug those knees in towards the chest and roll out your lower back, little circles right and left. And then let's go ahead and find our center here. Plant our feet down on the mat. If you can grab a block, if it's not too far away, that's because I can come kick it over to you. So grab one of those blocks here. We're gonna place our feet on the mat, hip width distance to start, and just press the heel so we can lift the hips up, placing that block flat, and place our hips down onto your block. So tailbone rests onto your block, flat, laying flat there. So it's nice and sturdy base. Bring your arms back down beside you. Bend one knee into your chest, the next knee into your chest, and then lift your feet up to the sky. So finding your legs up the wall with a little lift into your hips here with your block supporting you there. Bend the knees as much as you need to feel natural, to let those legs just relax up towards the sky. Maybe you like to circle out the ankles, right and left. Maybe you wiggle the toes, point the toes, flex the feet. And then let's go ahead and start to bend those knees in towards your chest, plant them back down to the mat. Lift up your hips to remove that block. Place your hips back down. With your knees bent here first and your feet still planted, let's slightly lift the pelvis, tuck it up towards the sky so you can really flatten the tailbone back down to the mat. We don't want it arching up off the mat there. And then start to bend the knees in towards the chest. Whether you'd like to do this now or straighten the legs first, we're gonna wiggle those hips side to side and start to place your palms to support underneath the hips and kind of cushion those hips. So your palms are face down, fingers face the bottom of your mat. And you might just kind of rest on those thumbs, or you scooch a little bit more underneath you, whatever feels comfortable there to find some cushion underneath the hips. And then if you haven't already, straighten those legs up towards the sky. We're gonna get into our core exercise here. So scooch those shoulders away from the ears. If you notice they're scrunched up by your ears. And then find your feet to lengthen up to the sky as we squeeze the inner thighs together. Slowly start to lower your feet, slower than you want to go, towards the mat. So really start to engage into the core. Try to avoid the back arching by pulling the belly button towards the spine, tuck that pelvis, hover just above the mat. Maybe you take your gaze up towards those feet if your neck is feeling okay. And then maybe you like to flutter kick here, reaching the feet, kicking up and down towards the sky and ceiling. Just slightly here, finding your flutter kick like a freestyle kick for 5. Maybe you go a little faster, really finding some speed here for last 3, 2, 1. We'll find our feet together, lift and back up to the sky. Take a moment here. Squeeze those inner thighs together, point those legs up. We've got 2 more sets. Slower than you want to go. Start to lower your legs towards the mat. Check in with your back. We don't want it arching up, so pull the belly button towards the spine. Strong core. Lowering it down just above the mat, about 2 inches, hovering here. Either hold, maybe you take your gaze up towards those toes, finding a little bit more engagement, or find some scissor kicks, reaching those legs out wide and then scissoring right over left, left over right, and switch. Nice job, guys. Remember to breathe. Let's go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's find our center. Squeeze those legs together. Rest the head. Pull your legs back up. Find a moment to breathe. Reset. Big inhale. And exhale. We got 1 more set. Squeeze those inner thighs together. Point those toes high. And then slowly start to lower when you're ready. Slower than you want to go. All the way towards the mat. Check in with the lower back. Suck the navel towards the spine, flatten it down to the mat, hover just above the mat with those toes. Staying here, holding, static holds. Maybe you lift the gaze up towards those toes, finding a little bit more depth here. Hold 3, last 2, last 1. Let's lower that head back down, lift the legs back up. Slowly release one hand from underneath the hips, then the other, and bend those knees in towards the chest. Give them a squeeze. Maybe you roll that lower back out right and left, if that feels good to do so here. And then give those knees a big squeeze. And then release your arms long, legs long, full body stretch. Reach the fingers, reach the toes towards the opposite ends of the room and really find a big stretch here. Go ahead and bend one knee, bend the other. Grab your block once more here. We're gonna plant the feet, lift the hips, place that block back underneath your tailbone, flat to start. So place it flat here to start. Sandwich between the mat and your tailbone. Relax your hips back down. Arms come long down the side. You shoulders scoot away from the ears. Palms face down. And then maybe it feels good to lengthen your legs out, finding a little bit deeper of a stretch here through that front side body. If it doesn't feel good to straighten out the legs, you can always keep the knees bent. Or maybe you find you want a little bit more depth. If you do, plant those feet, lift the hips, and bring your block up on its end, so that skinny side, finding a little more height there. And then you can play with reaching those legs out long. That'll give you a little more stretch down that front side. Finding a release here into what we just worked. You did great, guys. Getting that core warmed up. I know I'm feeling it. I don't know if you guys are. So let's find one more big breath here. Inhale. And exhale. One more for goodness sake. Why not? Let's big inhale. Breathe it in. And then as you exhale, just really feel your hips sink into that block. All right, let's bend the knees, plant the feet. Start to lift the hips, release that block from your hips and place them down to the mat. Bend the knees in, squeeze those knees in. You have the option here to grab from underneath the thighs, start to rock and roll back and forth down the spine. However many times feels good, giving a little massage to roll up and over onto a seat, or maybe you hug those knees in and just roll off to your side, press up into a seat. So whichever way you want to take it to get up into a seat. And then we'll go ahead and stand up, however you'd like to get there, on our mat. Grabbing for our massage ball here. So we're going to check in with our Uttanasana mountain pose first, now that we're standing and now that we've got a little bit of heat into our body. And before we get into that, I want to do something that I forgot to do for you guys last Tuesday and was brought up to me after class. So I want to make sure that when we hit our mountain pose, we're doing this because it's a really great way to find that grounded that we need, that rootedness and that groundedness that we need in our feet. So we're going to roll out our feet. So first, take your massage ball down on the floor. We're going to stand into the left leg, place that massage ball underneath the right foot, and start to roll it out forward and back. If we find that we need a little bit more stability, always feel free to go next to a wall and use that for support. Just allow yourself here to start to roll out your right foot. Maybe stopping in any spots that feel nice and juicy to press extra, spend a little extra time on and put a little extra pressure into. But we have this whole layer of connective tissue underneath our skin that's called fascia. And that can hold a lot of energy within the body that can really only be released by massage. Acupuncture helps, but we don't often give ourselves like massages. People don't really often work those into their daily routine. I've started to, and I've really loved it because it's that, I think, myofascial release, that connective tissue release that we all need. And this is one of those things for our feet. Our feet take us everywhere, but we don't often release the tension that they accumulate over time. with massage. So take your time here. Maybe you touch on the toes and kind of spread those toes out, rolling right and left. Let's find about one more breath here. And then when you feel good, to place that ball to a good standstill on your mat, I want you to place your right foot down, your left foot down, and just notice here, maybe finding your mountain pose, arms long down beside you, really grounding into those feet, noticing the difference of how the right foot might feel a little more attached, a little more grounded and connected to the mat, and the left might feel lifted, oddly enough. So just check in, notice that, bring some mindful awareness into that. And then when you're ready, you can switch onto the right foot and move that massage ball over to the left. So just rolling that out, forward and back. Checking in with how that feels. Any tender, or I guess juicy spots that you want to put some extra pressure into and really put your weight onto. And also notice that the softness of the ball that you use is really also going to make the difference. So if you notice that, the ball you're using, you just don't quite feel much release into your foot, then maybe next time we try something a little harder, like lacrosse ball is a really good one. Or there's even we have really great massage balls here that are a little firmer, that I feel like just, if you want that extra pressure, if the softness of the ball that you're feeling is a little too soft, or just notice kind of where you're at, because you may have not released your feet or massaged your feet out, and all of a sudden this is like, whoa, no, this is way too much. So just know that you have some range to play with there. So let's take a few more breaths, and even taking like a soup can and rolling your foot out is a way to do it at home if you don't have a massage ball. But that's pretty hard. Maybe wrap the soup can in a towel if you need a little softer, but there's ways to find this release into your connective tissue and without a massage ball as well. So let's take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, find that massage ball off to the side to a standstill. And let's start to find our mountain pose. So really start to ground into those feet, spreading out those toes, maybe rock a little right and left to notice how you can ground into all four corners. So those feet are going to come together, but if you notice that your knees knocking together or the ankles knocked together is uncomfortable, then separate those feet just slightly, or even come to a hip width distance stance. But really ground into the balls of the feet, the heels, as we squeeze those inner thighs together. Slightly tuck that pelvis forward. That's going to help suck the navel towards your spine, again, activating through the torso. And then you're lifting out of the torso. So lifting from the hips, lengthening up your obliques, lengthening up your abs, lifting the crown of the head to the sky, like someone's pulling a string up your spine like a puppet. And then lastly, shoulders, just relax away from the ears. Let those arms kind of hang down beside, palms face forward. Spark to those fingertips. So kind of bring some energy into the arms. Nice. Awesome, guys. Gazes forward. Let's find an inhale here, just like this. Reaching the crown of the head on your inhale. Then exhale, find rooting into your feet. Nice job. We'll take a breath. Inhale, circle sweep, hands reach high. Bring the palms to touch, really reach those fingertips. Maybe your gaze goes up, feel the length of the torso. One more inhale. And as you exhale, palms to heart center. Nice job. We're going to find two more breaths like that, and then we're going to practice and review our sun salutation option 1. So next inhale, circle sweep, hands reach high. Find your length. Exhale, palms to heart center. Next one, inhale, circle sweep, reach high. This time we'll exhale, palms to heart center. Start to forward fold, slight bend in the knees, hinging at the hips, hands come towards the mat. Finding an inhale, bend the knees, drop the hips, halfway lift. I know we haven't covered this. We'll come to it next week. So lifting your chest halfway, hands can come to the shins, squeeze those inner thighs together. As we exhale, go ahead and start to drop the hands to the mat, bend the knees nice and deep, start to lift the heels coming on the toes. And always remember here, we need to grab those blocks, place those in front of the shoulders if we liked those last time for support. And then exhale, lift those hips up high, fold, let your forehead drop towards the knees, let the knees bend as much as you need. Next, inhale, plant into the feet, circle sweep, hands reach up high. Optional back bend here as you open up those elbows 90 degrees, squeeze into the shoulder blades, open to the chest, gaze up, lean back. Inhale, reach those hands high. Exhale, palms to heart center. Nice job. Relax those hands down. Uttanasana mountain pose. Do we have any questions about our option 1 sun salutation? It's pretty straightforward. Always remember that if you want these blocks here for that halfway lift, and like I said, we'll cover more of our halfway lift in detail next week. But if you want your blocks here for this kind of motion and this support, you have that option. So let's try it one more time, whether you'd like to include the blocks or not. So finding your Uttanasana mountain pose, find that engagement, squeeze inner thighs, suck the navel towards the spine, lift from the torso, shoulders down and back. Inhale, circle sweep, hands high. As we exhale, palms to heart center, start to forward fold. Hands come to the mat or to your blocks. We'll inhale, halfway lift the chest halfway, sit the hips, bend the knees as much as you need to find a flat back. Exhale, fold, let your forehead drop towards your shins, hips high, bend the knees as much as you need to release into the low back. Next inhale, we'll start to lift the chest, drop the heels, lifting onto the toes, find your squat. So squeeze those inner thighs together, really squeeze your elbows into your knees, tuck the forehead towards those knees, find that compact little ball. And then next inhale, we'll drop the knees, circle sweep, reach high. Exhale, optional back bend, open up those elbows, squeeze the shoulder blades together, gaze up, lean back. Inhale, reach hands high. Exhale, palms to heart center. Nice job. Release those hands down to Uttanasana mountain pose. Nice job, guys. So we've gotten through that review. We're going to get into our Uttanasana forward fold breakdown. So for this one, I am going to go ahead and ask you to grab your blocks. Since we're going to be holding our fold for just a little bit, I want us to have the support of our blocks. So take those blocks, place those shoulder width distance in front of you, just about underneath your shoulders. We're going to be folding and using those. So we'll start back in our mountain pose. Check in there. Again, go straight to it. Squeeze those inner thighs together. Root into all 4 corners of the feet. Reach up from the torso, shoulders down and back. We'll inhale, circle sweep, hands high. As we exhale, palms to heart center. Let's find 2 more like that. Inhale, circle sweep, reach high. Exhale, palms to heart center. This time, circle sweep, reach and lengthen up from the torso, and then arms out wide, swan dive, forward fold. Hands come to your mat. We'll take our feet, or excuse me, hand come to your block. Hands come to your block. We'll take our feet out, hip width distance. So feet are hip width distance here. Bend the knees as much as you need to start to allow your chest to relax over your thighs. And then allow your arms to relax on your blocks here that are standing on their ends. So your elbows will just relax onto your blocks, or maybe your hands, if it's a little too tight into your hamstrings, so let your elbows relax, just let your hands relax. And then let your forehead drop. The idea is you have some support with your blocks here to relax into this ragdoll forward fold. So this specific forward fold isn't the one that we're going to be using in our sun salutation, but it's kind of a warm up to get there. So I want you to notice your hamstrings here. Notice how it feels. Are they tight? If they feel tight and they're pulling, then bend in the knees. Just allow yourself to warm them up. Let that bend come out gradually over time. So notice here, if we're pulling into the low back, that means that we need to bend the knees. So that's where we're checking in, tight hamstrings or not. Use your modification here. Listen to your body. Let your head hang heavy. Finding your breath, just allowing yourself on each exhale to see if you can press those hips up a little higher towards the sky. That's going to help take the bend out of your knees. But notice with your inhale, maybe you find a deeper bend, creating some space. And then as you exhale, you lift those hips high. So notice if you find slight movement as you inhale, just finding a slight bend, creating space. And then exhale, lift those hips up a little higher. Or if it feels good to find a few breaths where you're at, and then you try an exhale where you press those hips a little higher. Just notice the space that you have here within your hamstrings. That's all I kind of want you to take awareness of here, is what your hamstrings are doing, how that affects your lower back, how bending in the knees a little deeper might release any tension we feel in the low back. So we won't be here for too much longer. About 2 more breaths. And exhale. So the benefits of our forward folds, we're stretching our spine, our hamstring, and our calves. We're strengthening our spine and our thighs. We're also stretching our hips. And we're improving our posture and relieving stress. But like I said, it's easy to get back injury here if we have tight hamstrings or if we're not being careful. So bend the knees to modify or just to release out of your low back if we're feeling it. Now go ahead, next inhale, place your hands up to your blocks. If you have the elbows there, we'll start to walk those feet to touch. And then go ahead, next inhale, press into all 4 corners of the feet, bend the knees and reach those hands up high, circle sweep all the way to standing. Exhale, palms to heart center. We'll inhale, circle sweep, hands reach high. And then exhale, cactus open those arms, optional back bend here, just counteracting that fold, gaze up, squeeze those elbows down and back, lean back. Inhale, hands reach up high. So we exhale, palms to heart center. All right, find your Uttanasana mountain pose, arms going down beside you. So we're gonna go ahead and take our next forward fold. It's gonna be a lot shorter than that, but it's gonna be our actual Uttanasana forward fold that we will see in our sun salutation options. So that means that our feet are gonna stay together and that's gonna be a little bit more onto our hamstrings. So again, notice if we need to bend the knees as much as we need. So we'll find our hands down beside you, Tadasana mountain pose if we're not out there. Inhale, circle sweep, hands high. As we exhale, palms to heart center, start to bend into the knees and forward fold. Bring your hands towards the mat, or if you wanna bring those back to your blocks, you can still utilize your blocks here. So try to forward fold, forehead towards your shins, hips high. And then next inhale, bend the knees, try to drop those hips slightly, create some space. And then exhale, lift those hips a little higher as you drop your forehead towards the shins. So notice with each inhale, we're dropping those hips, creating some space, bending deep into the knees. And then exhale, bring those hips up high to the sky, drop your forehead. Maybe you take a little bit of that bend out of the knees. Stretching through the hamstrings. Let's find a few more like that. Inhale, create some space, whether you lift a little bit, bend the knees. Exhale, fold, forehead towards your shin, hips high. One more like that. Inhale. And then exhale, find your depth. Whatever that looks like for you today. Check in with your hamstrings, your low back, bend the knees as much as you need, but see if you can press them up towards the sky. And then gently release the hands down to the mat. If we have them bend into the knees, we'll circle sweep all the way up to the sky, standing. And exhale, palms to heart center. Nice job, guys. So let's go ahead and get into our flow, working in some other forward folds here, but then also working in our option 2, and I would say like 4 of our sun salutation modifications. So hands come down beside you. We'll go ahead and step our right foot all the way back. And then pivot your left toes in. So we're gonna take a wide-legged stance here. So toes, yeah, I'm gonna turn this way. So toes in, heels out. On your next inhale, really circle sweep the arms up high. And then exhale, I want you to open up wide. So really spark those fingers out wide, gaze up, find another inhale. And then as you exhale, hinge forward at the hips. Let your hands start to drop towards the mat. Maybe they grab the mat, the ankles, the calves, and you find a forward fold here with wide legs. Always feel free to grab for your blocks and place those blocks underneath your hands for support here. Again, checking in with your hamstrings, adjusting your stance if we need to modify. If we need to shorten the stance and slightly bend the knees, check in with how that's gonna help take the tension out of the low back if we have tight hamstrings. Check in with your head and neck, make sure it's nice and heavy. And then let's go ahead and take our hands underneath the face so we can lift our chest halfway. You have 2 options here. You have your hand down straight onto the mat, or you can place a block under there to give you a little extra lift. So placing your left hand down to the mat, next inhale, right hand reaches up high. Again, notice if we need to place that block underneath there, getting our back to be a nice flat back here. Suck the navel towards your spine, strong core, twisting into the torso. Gaze is wherever's comfortable on the neck. Check if your left hip is kind of dipping towards center. Let's square those hips back. So pull that right hip back to center. Take one more breath. Exhale, right hand drops to replace the left. Next inhale, left hand reaches high. So twisting the opposite direction here. Again, notice if that right hip is kind of dropping in towards center. We want to even those hips back square. So pressing the left hip, bumping it in. Find your inhale and exhale, twist through the torso. We'll go ahead and release left hand down towards the mat. Taking a side lunge here, so placing your hands on your mat or on your block. We'll bend deep into the right knee. You might need to bring those right toes slightly forward and start to just allow yourself to settle into a side lunge here. Those left toes maybe pick up, so you're resting on the heel. That left leg is nice and straight. So allow yourself to settle into this. And then we'll start to slowly lift ourselves just up halfway. So lift those hips up halfway and pivot our hands to frame our right foot. So we're gonna pivot our hands to frame that right foot, bending deep into the right knee and high in your back toes. Go ahead and lower that left knee down to the mat. So we're in our low lunge here. Notice if you wanna place an extra padding underneath the left knee if we need to do so. And then I recommend taking your blocks and placing those on either side of your right foot to help give a little bit of lift. Sorry, guys. So using those blocks here, underneath those palms, start to lift the crown of the head up, lift your chest through, deep bend in that front knee. So walk those toes forward. If we notice the knee is jutting out over the toes, we'll find a slight arch into the back as you gaze up. Big inhale. And then exhale, start to straighten out through the right leg. Find a half split, right? Or forehead drops towards your right shin. Don't need to take it all the way into your depth because we're going to move through a little flow here. So next inhale, bend into the knee. We're going to pull that chest forward, arching into the back as we gaze up, really bend into that front knee. And then exhale, straighten out the right leg as you fold over your right shin, stretching through that right hamstring. Inhale, last one as we bend into that front knee, plant the front foot, pull your chest through, gaze up. Exhale, straighten through the right leg, drop your hips back. Find your half splits here for a hold. So start to settle in, maybe taking those blocks with you to help stay lifted from the hips. You can fold towards your right shin. Bump your right hip back, left hip forward. Let's go ahead and find our next inhale as we start to lift up, planting that right foot. Bring our hands and our blocks to frame that right foot. Curl under your left toes and lift your left knee. So we're in our high-low lunge here. Start to lift your hands off your block, lift your chest, see if you can rise up into your crescent lunge just for a moment. Next inhale, start to straighten out through that right leg and drop that back heel. We'll want to step that left foot in just slightly. So find a shorter stance here, hands come to your hips and you can square those hips back forward to front. The left toes might come into about 45-degree angle. Your heels are about in line, if not just slightly off. So really square those forward. Next inhale, reach the hands high. And then as you exhale, reach those hands forward, nice straight back. Bend into that front knee as much as you need to keep a flat back, strong core. Hands come down to your blocks or maybe to the mat as you straighten out that right leg and fold your forehead towards your shin. So working into our hamstrings today with some folds. So finding your right hip to bump back, left hip bumps forward as you fold your forehead towards your shin. Nice. Next inhale here, we'll start to slightly lift the chest, to bend into the right knee. Start to pick up your left toes and just step them all the way back to the back of your mat. You can take your blocks with you because we'll need them on the other side. So start to walk your hands towards center, coming back into your wide-legged fold, and then bend deep into your left knee, finding your side lunge here. So taking those blocks, you'll have them by you in the front here, whether you keep those underneath your hands or whether you allow your hands to drop towards the mat. We want our right legs nice and straight, flexing those toes, sitting into your left knee nice and deep here. And then gently start to lift your hips halfway and start to pivot forward to frame your left foot. So deep bend into your left knee. Taking your blocks here to frame that left foot and then slowly drop your right knee down to the mat. Next inhale, deep bend into that front knee as we start to pull our chest through, gaze up, finding kind of our cat-cow lunge here. And then as we exhale, drop your hips back, straighten through that left leg, fold forehead towards your shin. Inhale, we'll flow through this as we bend into that knee, pull your chest through, gaze goes up. Notice if we need to walk the toes out so our knee isn't jutting over the toes. Next exhale, drop it back to your half split, straighten through your left leg, fold over towards your shin. Pull the left hip back, right hip forward. Last one, inhale, bend into the knee, pull your chest through, gaze goes up. And then exhale, fold it forward, finding your half splits here, settling into your depth. So maybe start to sit back a little deeper. Notice if you flex into that left foot, pull your left hip back, right hip forward, you'll find more depth there into your hamstring. One more breath here, create some space. So you exhale, find your depth. This next inhale, we'll start to lift ourselves up, planting our left foot, bending into the left knee. Place your blocks to frame your left foot so you can curl under your right toes, lift that right knee. And then when you're ready, see if you can lift up, finding your crescent lunge here. Go ahead and drop that back heel down, straighten out through the front leg, and step your right foot in. About a 3-foot stance, hands come down towards your hips. Square those hips back forward, bumping right hip forward, left hip back. Your right toe is about 45-degree angle, and those heels are about in line. Inhale, when you're ready, circle sweep, hands reach up, lengthen from the torso. To exhale, flat back, strong core, slight bend in that front knee to help hands reach towards your blocks or towards your mat. And then when you're there, pyramid pose, pull your left hip back, right hip forward, fold forehead towards your shin. Beautiful. Let's find a slight bend into that front knee as we plant into the left foot, and then go ahead and just step your right foot forward to meet the left and forward fold, Uttanasana. So allow your forehead to drop towards the shins. Maybe you're able to get rid of your blocks, hands can relax towards the floor. See if you can press those hips up high. Maybe use your hands, kind of walk back towards the heels, helping pull the forehead towards the shins as you press your hips a little higher. Just notice how you're feeling here after we've warmed up our hamstrings. And then our next inhale here, we're going to press into all 4 corners, bend in the knees, circle sweep, hands reach all the way up high. Exhale, palms to heart center. Nice job. Hands relax down beside you. So now we're going to get into our 2 other options that I want to show you for our sun salutation modification. And so what they entail basically is a plank pose and then holding downward dog. And so for those that have wrist issues, we'll just do a couple modifications, or I'll show you just general modifications for either of those. And so to make our way down to that, we're going to find our mountain pose. We'll inhale, circle sweep, hands reach up high. So you exhale, palms to heart center, start to forward fold, finding your Uttanasana, hands towards the mat. Inhale, find a halfway lift, slightly bend in the knees, just lift your chest halfway, hands can rest onto the shins. We'll come back to this. So we exhale, hands to the mat, and then step your feet back. to find a plank pose. So this is our second option for our sun salutation modification. Yeah, so our plank pose, holding our plank pose. Whether you hold it here in a full plank pose, spreading your fingers out wide, pressing into all 5 fingers. We can press out of the wrists, shoulders rotate away from the ears. Hips stay in line with your shoulders. Nice and strong here, suck the navel towards your spine. Or if you need to modify this plank pose, drop the knees. So you find your knees in that modified plank. Or for those that have wrist issues, we drop onto the forearms. So finding yourself onto your 4 elbows, so the forearms are parallel, still pressing out the elbows, shoulders away from the ears. We can find our forearm plank either with knees lifted or with knees on the mat. Nice job, holding strong. Find an inhale wherever you're at. And then exhale, press those hips back high up towards the sky, finding your downward facing dog. So from your plank pose, you just press your hips high and back, finding that V shape, head hangs heavy, downward facing dog, shoulders roll away from your ears. Again, we'll come back to our downward facing dog. Just find that somewhat V shape within the body. Again, bend the knees as much as you need. If you have tight hamstrings, we're pressing our chest to the sky, pressing our chest towards the thighs, hips to the sky. Beautiful. We'll go ahead and drop the knees down to the mat. I want to just show you the other option here from your forearms. So if we were taking our forearm, either plank or we were down on our knees, what we're gonna do for that forearm plank, you have the option just to press those hips back, walk those feet in and find a dolphin plank. So again, this takes it off the wrists, but it is a good shoulder workout. So that's why you really have to focus on pressing in the elbows out of the shoulders and press the chest towards your thighs. And so that's our second / kind of fourth option is you have for your sun salutation, you have this option that when we start in our mountain pose, you'll see everyone start to do their sun salutation. We find our folds and then everyone steps back in their plank. And if you are not ready to, and again, we'll hit this option where you go into your chaturanga, your option is just to hold your plank here, whether that's a full plank, whether you drop your knees and that's a modified plank. Again, whether you want to drop onto your forearms, find a forearm plank, forearm modified plank, you're holding that plank this whole time that they're doing this motion and you're meeting them when they press back into downward dog. And so for you, this option is about holding into your plank and just focusing on that core strength and establishing that, because that is then in turn going to help you when you try that half push-up, because you're going to have that strong core to help support you going down. And so basically all you're doing is holding a plank and pressing back into your downward dog, whether that is your modified plank, your full plank, your forearm plank. Again, that can be more challenging because you're doing a lot more in the shoulders, but that's always going to help you with your chaturanga is that shoulder strength. So never a bad option to try, even if you don't have wrist issues. And another option I want to say that I did see my mom doing that a lot of people do like to do, and as help with the wrist, is putting some extra padding, like folding your yoga mat here at the front, and that'll kind of lift, and then you place your pads of your palms on it and your fingers off, and that'll kind of give a little more space for your wrist. So you can try that and see how that feels in your plank pose. That might be the modification you need to hold the plank pose and it won't bother your wrist. So play around with that. But that's our option too. So I want to go ahead and kind of go through that from the beginning. So let's go ahead and stand up at the top of our mat, because what I'll do is we'll have ourselves here at the top of our mat, and we're going to work into our second core exercise from going through this one more time. So let's find our arms lying down beside you, Uttanasana mountain pose. We'll lengthen up, reach the hands up high in your next inhale. As you exhale, palms to heart center, then fold at the hips to Uttanasana. Let your hips high, head relax. Inhale, find a slight halfway lift, bend those knees, hands come to the shins, nice flat back. And then exhale, go and plant your hands down. Let's step our feet back, finding your plank pose, whatever variation you'd like to take here. Full plank, modified, forearm plank. Hold strong, suck the navel towards your spine. Try to keep your hips from sagging. and lifting too high into a V. So we want to make sure they're nice and square and or in line with our shoulders. Hold 3, 2, big inhale. And as you exhale, press your hips high and back, find your downward facing dog. So let your head drop, chest press towards your thighs, hips high to the sky. Nice job, guys. And then from here, there's a lot of different ways sequence can go, but for us, we're gonna go ahead and just drop it down to our knees to find our tabletop. So I know that plank is a core exercise, but I'm gonna show you an exercise that we can do from our tabletop, and we won't do too many reps, but I wanna make sure and get this last little bit of core in before we start to settle down for our class. So finding your tabletop here, whether you'd like to place the extra padding underneath your knees, you have that option. We'll place our hands firmly into the mat. Again, wrist issues, we can always curl under that top of your mat to find that extra padding underneath your palms. Or you can come up onto your fists. That's always an option too, and that'll help stack your wrists underneath the shoulders and take the pressure off there. So wherever you're at here, we're gonna plant firmly into our hands, around the shoulders, away from the ears. Gaze just between the thumbs. Weight comes into your left knee as we inhale, reach our right leg back behind you, lengthen. And then exhale, crunch knee into your nose, round through the shoulders and round through the back. Really hug that knee up into the belly. Inhale, reach that right leg nice and long, really point through the toes. Exhale, crunch it in. So round through the shoulders, press into the palms, round through the back. Inhale, reach it out long. We'll find 2 more. Hug it in, squeeze it in. Inhale, reach it out long. Excuse me, 2 more from here. Squeeze it in. Last crunch here. Man, my words. Reach it out. Exhale, crunch it in. This is the last one. Squeeze it in. Knee to your nose. Pull it into the belly. Holds. And then we'll inhale, reach that right leg long. Go ahead and shake it out. And release it down to the mat. Find your tabletop. Maybe take little sways into the hips, right and left. Let's find our other side. So finding your strong, stable center here, pressing into both the palms, shoulders roll away from the ears. Suck the navel towards the spine, nice flat back, gaze between the thumbs. Weight comes into your right knee as we inhale, lift left leg long. And then exhale, crunch knee into your nose, really round through the back. Inhale, reach left leg long. Exhale, crunch knee into your nose, suck it into the belly. Inhale, reach it long. 3 more. Exhale, crunch it in. Inhale, reach it long. Exhale, crunch knee into your nose, squeeze. Last time, inhale, reach it long. Exhale, crunch knee into your nose. Try to hold it here, really press into the palms, around through the shoulders, hug that knee up towards your chest. 3, 2, 1. We'll inhale, left leg long. Go ahead and release, shake that leg. And then settle back down into your tabletop here. Next inhale. Drop the belly button towards the mat, pull your chest through, gaze goes up, big stretch to the front side. Exhale, round, tuck the chin in, round through the shoulders and back. Full cat-cow, 2 more rounds. Inhale, pull your chest through, gaze up. Exhale, round, tuck the chin. Last time, inhale, pull your chest through, let the belly drop, gaze up. Exhale, round, tuck the chin, around through the shoulders and back. Well, inhale, pull yourself through center. Go ahead and bring your knees out wide, toes to touch. Start to sit the hips back, arms long in front of you, finding Balasana child's pose. So let the toes touch, knees out wide. Let your hips sit back towards the feet. Chest relaxes towards the mat. Let your forehead relax down. Arms just reach out nice and long. Maybe you rock your forehead right and left if that feels good to massage. Your third eye center, that space between the eyebrows where the ridge of the nose meets. Next inhale, we'll start to walk our hands back to our knees, walk those knees in, and then lift ourselves up onto the knees. So we got 1 more big back bend here, kind of counteract all the folds we've been doing. So bring your knees out about hip width distance here. And then you want your hands to tuck into your invisible jean pockets. So your pinkies are facing each other, thumbs on the outside, and squeeze those elbows and shoulder blades together. Inhale, lengthen up to the spine, lengthen the crown of the head tall, and then exhale, start to gaze up as you lean back into your palms, squeeze elbows together, finding your depth here in our camel pose. This can be pretty intense, so take it slowly as you lean back, gaze back, pressing the hips forward, trying to avoid from leaning back into this big capital C shape for 3, 2, 1. Gently start to lift yourself back to center. As we sit our hips down, we'll bring our knees to touch. Hips sit on those heels. Bring your hands out in front of you and spread those fingers wide. Bring the middle fingers to touch, palms face up, and then slide your pinkies in towards your hip crease. Inhale, lengthen the spine nice and long. Exhale, start to fold over your thighs. Let your belly just relax into your palms. And then hug your forehead towards your knees. Lastly, let your elbows just relax down to the floor. So let the arms just flop down like big rabbit ears. And then as you hug your forehead towards your knees, try to pull those hips back down to the heels. So really create a rounding, compacted little ball here. Let the elbows relax. Find your breath, breathing into the back of the rib cage as you find a big inhale. And exhale. Let's hug our elbows back up towards our rib cage to help support as we lift ourselves up into a seat. Nice job. Go ahead and shift your legs off to one side. We'll find ourselves onto our bum. Bring our legs out long in front. Take a little rock right and left and just notice how you're feeling with those hips coming square and flat onto the mat. Bring those legs out in front. We're gonna try one last forward fold here seated and just notice how we're feeling with our hamstrings. So inhale, lengthen up through the spine, really lengthen up from the torso. As you exhale, start to fold, hinging at the hips. Hands reach towards the feet, maybe ankles, calves, and fold forehead towards your knees. Again, check in with the low back. If we feel tense, tight, bend in the knees. But notice, maybe we're able to find a little bit more depth here. Maybe our back is feeling okay compared to when we first tried this. So find one more big breath here, find some space, invite it in, and then exhale. Big opening through the backside of the body as you find your depth. And then go ahead and gently rise up, reaching the arms up nice and tall as you do. Lift up, rise up. Exhale, palms to your heart center. Go ahead and find our easy seat. If you'd like to bring the soles of the feet to touch, knees bend out wide if you want some opening in the hips, or you can always just find that easy seat that we started at, crisscrossing those legs. Whichever you'd like to do here. Palms just relax down into your lap as you inhale, lengthen up to the spine. And exhale, shoulders relax down. Go ahead and close your eyes. Bringing your hands to your heart center, or maybe palms prayer to heart. Check in with that intention that you set earlier during class. Maybe it evolved, changed, maybe something completely new showed up for you. Whatever it was here, as you inhale, breathe it in and honor it for however it served you, however it showed up or even didn't. And then exhale, release any expectations surrounding how it'll play out for you the rest of today. One more big inhale, sealing this in, breathe it in. And exhale, let it go. The light within each of you shines so brightly as I see it also within me, but today I'm here honoring all that is you, your practice, and your unique light. Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure. Namaste. Thank you, guys. Do you have any questions about anything that we covered today? Again, another pretty straightforward pose, and I know we hit some stuff that we're not quite to yet, but been breaking down, but any questions or no? Homework. Thank you. Yes, I did. Homework. So homework, if you can, I would love for you, first thing in the morning, forward fold is such a great pose to get in first thing in the morning, right when you get out of bed. And it doesn't have to be, your depth of a forward fold. Basically, it's just allowing your body just that moment of releasing some tension in your back, trying to get into the hamstrings. It's, again, we use our hamstrings, we use our back a lot during the day, and we don't realize it, all this slouching, all this stuff. And so just when you first get out of bed, if you have yoga blocks, again, that's a great way to find those yoga blocks, find your feet hip width distance, and just kind of settle into this for a few breaths. Maybe you start to work those hips up high, or maybe even try some of these little, noticing how that strengthens, stretches out your hamstrings. But basically for your homework, I just want you to see if you can work in a forward fold into your morning, for as long as these fit for your body, whether you get it in 1, 2 days, 3 days, or whether you just get in one day, all days, just try to see if you can maybe start to work that in as something that you do occasionally, just to release tension in your low back, just to check in on your hamstrings. One of those things that we, again, or, when you're folding to grab something, watch when you start to lift up, bend those knees, being careful how you fold to grab things. And that'll come more into play when we touch into our halfway lift, I would say. But yeah, so for your homework, I guess it's just check in with your forward fold in the morning and see how you feel, and see if you can maybe work it into a daily routine, not too much of a homework ask, hopefully. But yeah, that one I just kind of want to see if it's a great one to do in the morning, right when you get out of bed. So, or even before you go to bed, or at the end of day, that's even a better time, actually. Doing it before bed, actually. Let's switch that homework. Do it before bed. Yeah, after you've had your day, that's like on your, and then before you get into bed, just hang in your ragdoll for a little bit and just see how that feels. Yeah, and then notice maybe if you sleep better, that could be something, so feel a little bit less stressed when you wake up, taking on their day. Sometimes we wake up and it's like, you can get hit with stress right off the bat just because of the to-dos, whatever's, maybe you have an appointment that day, or, something big, there's always stuff that can affect us externally. So that's why yoga is so great, is it's our own tool for our body, to use our body to help check in with the mind and help balance everything out. So yeah, do a ragdoll before bed and see how that makes a difference. Awesome. Thanks, guys.